Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today, as always, we're going to be talking about Agatha All Along and the Penguin. But before that, we've got our On the Horizon segment where we're talking about what's coming up in the next week. We also got a On Beat section. We've got some news stories and some trailers to go over. And let's get started with our On the Horizon segment.
On the horizon. On the horizon.
On the Horizon, as I said, is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to start things off with Metal Slug Tactics, which, when that came announced like 2 years ago?
Yeah, about that.
It's been a while. Like that, it looked almost done when they showed it. Like it looked good already. And then it just never came out.
And now it's coming out.
Tuesday, November 5th. That's Election Day. On PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Switch. Next up, we have Citadel Honey Bunny. We talked about the trailer for this. This is, I think, the best looking of the Citadel ones from the trailers we've seen. It's the one that actually looks kind of like it's got a sense of humor and some personality to it. This is the Indian one. This is the one from India. And that's coming on Thursday, November 7th on Amazon Prime. Mario and Luigi Brothership. This is, I guess, Nintendo's big holiday title.
Yeah, it is. I told you it was.
Coming on Thursday, November 7th on the Switch. That's also the day that the PlayStation 5 Pro comes out. That's not software, just hardware, but it's used to player software. Is also Thursday, November 7th. Black Cab, which I think we had the trailer in our short list one time. I don't think we talked about it though. But Black Cab is a horror movie and it stars Dick Frost, and he like is a guy who he has a black cab, which is like the famous cabs in London, and he like abducts somebody in his cab. Stuff is going on. It's a horror movie. And that's coming on Friday, November 8th to Shudder. And then speaking of horror, Heretic, starring Hugh Grant, comes out on Friday, November 8th to theaters. I think we talked about one of the trailers for this.
We talked about the trailers like last week, I believe.
Or more, I don't know. But we definitely, I'm pretty sure we talked about the trailer for this. These Mormon missionaries, they go to like a person's house and he like traps them and he's playing like some kind of psychological horror game against them or something. But yeah, that is our On the Horizon segment. And now we're going to be moving on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment. Our first news story is that PlayStation has closed Firewalk Studios. Those are the makers of Concord, the short-lived live service game. I know you have kind of more to say about this.
The thing about it is, I was never particularly interested in the game, but I mean, I do think like this is bullshit. This is bullshit because studios need to be allowed to fail. Studios need to be allowed to put out a bomb once in a while because not everything is going to be a massive success. And I've said before, success is something that you can't manufacture. You can do your best to make something polished, to make something fun, to make something that appeals to like whatever demographic you're targeting. It doesn't guarantee it's going to work or it's going to take off at all. And the sad thing about this is that clearly didn't happen here, and the studio's not being given a second chance. Who knows what could happen if the studio was allowed to continue and make another game? Their next game could have been the runaway success Sony was looking for. They could have been on the verge of that, but we'll never know because bean counters and impatient investors who want to see an immediate return on everything, like they have to have it now, and if not, then everybody's out of a job.
That's why I'm glad I'm a Nintendo fan.
It's absurd. My take on this is if anybody should be laid off, if anybody should be fired, it should be the managers, should be the CEO, the CFO, the execs, everybody at the top level who made these decisions to spend $200 million on a
new IP for live services that has traditionally been a tricky thing to break into, and you can have huge success, but so many games are just utter failures.
They should be firing themselves.
Yeah.
It's absurd. It's absurd to
This feels like scapegoating for their own behavior, you know?
Well, it is scapegoating. It is. It's let's take all the risk, and then if nothing works out, we could just fire the people we hired.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to me that the industry is like this, and that we keep getting these stories about people getting laid off and losing their jobs because people running these companies are bad at management, are bad at, financial management.
Yeah. Again, makes me happy I'm a Nintendo fan.
Yeah.
This is one of those instances when, all the lawsuits and other shit that Nintendo gets up to start going on, you have to, get defensive or accept the bad and stuff. But these are the moments when it's like, yeah, I'm glad I'm a Nintendo fan because they actually understand this shit. Our next news story, Fantastic Beasts. Your favorite film franchise. Not Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts. Well, it's done. It is donezo.
I watched one of those movies, and I feel like...
Harry Potter or Fantastic Beasts?
No, just Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
I watched Fantastic Beasts, and I felt like that was enough, and I didn't feel like, why does this need to be 100 movies?
Oh, Mads Mikkelsen was in the last one. He replaced Johnny Depp. He was great.
Yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah, I'm a Harry Potter fan who doesn't have a lot to celebrate there anymore. Fantastic Beasts was never really that great. It was always kind of a weird idea as that to be the follow-up for Harry Potter. It just didn't kind of have the same magic, so to speak. But the bigger story here is that, there's a Harry Potter TV series coming out that's readapting the actual Harry Potter franchise, and that's going to be coming up, and that's what, Warner Brothers' focus is. Warner Brothers doesn't give a shit about a spin-off, they want the real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Our next news story is that Good Omens Season 3 will now consist of only a single 90-minute episode, and Neil Gaiman has left production on that series. He wrote it, I believe, what they're using, but he's no longer involved.
Yeah, so it looks like that series is done. It was originally based on a book co-written by
Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, I believe, right?
Terry Pratchett, yeah, with Terry Pratchett. The first season of Good Omens already covered all the events of the book, so, the season 2 is basically a sequel, and so,
but it was based on, Terry Pratchett's passed away.
Yes.
But they were going to write a second book, and so the second season of the show was based kind of on the notes that Neil Gaiman had that from him and Terry Pratchett's conversations about a second book.
Right.
And the third season is kind of, I think, more just Gaiman, plotting how to end the series, how to bring it to a nice close or something. That's kind of like his alone. I don't think there's really any more notes left from Pratchett at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these things are happening recently, so we don't know really what's going on behind the scenes. We kind of have the stories, but nobody really knows the exact details of what's going on.
I don't want to really get into this part of it, but there's been some allegations against Gaiman that sound really bad. So that's why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yikes.
Yeah, it makes me nervous about other things. Sandman season 2 is coming up, so it's kind of interesting what's going to end up happening with that stuff. What's going to happen with Sandman? They already canceled Dead Boy Detectives, which is the Sandman spin-off series.
Yeah, but that got canceled for Netflix reasons, not for any other reasons.
It was after that though, so it probably contributed to some extent. It's probably one of those cases of they might have kept it around as let's just keep it around to keep Gaiman happy kind of thing. And then now that's no longer a reason for them to do anything. So,
alright, well, moving on.
Our next story is that Yooka-Re-Playee, which is a remake kind of, or a remaster of Yooka-Laylee, had a trailer come out showing the kind of platforms it's on, and it had a little sly
platforms.
It had a little sly hint at a Switch successor. Pretty obvious. If you just kind of read about it or something, it's one thing, but if you actually watch the trailer, then it's it's pretty obvious.
The end of the trailer lists the platforms it's going to be on. It's going to be on all the expected platforms. PS5, Xbox Series, PC, and then instead of and then they have a Nintendo logo. The Nintendo corporate racetrack logo. Instead of the Nintendo Switch logo that appears in every trailer that has like a Nintendo Switch game. And then it's always been a Nintendo Switch specific logo. Switch logo appears nowhere in this trailer.
And then in that trailer, with that screen showing the platforms it's going to be on, a pair of disembodied eyes hop across the screen, land on top of the Nintendo logo, and then kind of do like a little eye roll kind of thing.
Okay, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pretty big hint. It's kind of like it's going, oh, I can't talk about this.
I mean, there's no reason to, if it was going to be on Nintendo Switch, there's no reason to not use the Switch logo.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's coming to Alarmo.
Yeah, it's going to be exclusive to Alarmo. So yeah, it's coming to a Nintendo platform.
Yeah.
And so we can all
the second game that's been confirmed for a Nintendo platform by its developer.
Yes.
So the first one was like an indie game. I guess Yooka-Re-Playee is also an indie game, but yeah, this is a bigger, higher profile game. So it's just interesting times. We're still waiting on actual news of the Switch successor, but
Nintendo's supposed to have their like financial briefing pretty soon.
Yeah.
Anytime now. So like we'll probably get an update on that.
Yeah, something. Even if it's not like what we're looking for, we might get an update of a time frame maybe that they'll make an announcement, an update for an update, something, hopefully. But yeah, this is the second game confirmed for the Switch successor by its developer. Our next news story, Michael Cera has joined Glenn Powell and Josh Brolin in Edgar Wright's The Running Man. So we talked last week about about Josh Brolin joining the cast as the villain, and now we know Michael Cera's joining. Michael Cera, of course, worked with Edgar Wright on Scott Pilgrim, so it's kind of like a reuniting thing. Edgar Wright has certain actors he likes to work with, you know, and he's, I guess, bringing Michael Cera into that fold. So, like I said before, I think we just need Simon Pegg and Nick Frost to join now.
Oh, yeah.
Our next news story is that the cult comic Emily the Strange is being adapted as an animated film by Bad Robot and Warner Brothers. Bad Robot being J.J. Abrams' production company. So this is just kind of interesting. If you don't know what Emily the Strange is, I promise you've seen it. You've seen like pictures of it, memes from that artwork of it. It's like a very like goth girl, kind of fits in the same range of like a Daria or like I don't know, some of the Wednesday stuff. I don't know, but it's kind of in that range of stuff. It's like snarky goth girl, kind of very cult famous comic strip, and it's being adapted into a movie by J.J. Abrams' company. Our last news story before we get into trailers is that the Wayne brothers are returning to Scary Movie. So this is a big deal because Scary Movie and the Wayne brothers being cut from the Scary Movie, you know, franchise, like being removed from it, was basically the start of what killed the spoof genre entirely. Like, we had a lot of great spoof movies. You were talking before the podcast, you mentioned like, you know, all the Mel Brooks stuff. You had like the Robin Hood Men in Tights and Spaceballs. You had the Naked Gun movies, all that stuff. And then the Scary Movie ones came around and those were like a success. And then the Wayne brothers, after the second Scary Movie, they got kind of cut from their own franchise. So like they lost their own franchise and they ruined it. The studio ruined that franchise, ran it into the ground. And then they just said, well, while we're ruining this, why don't we just ruin the entire genre?
Yeah, and then they had these total hacks, like just pumping out just garbage spoof movies that really were just like a series of non sequitur pop culture references rather than anything resembling jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, just
ruin the entire franchise.
Entire genre, because the movies were shit and people were like, you know, wising up to like the fact that these movies were just shit, and so, you know, they stopped making money, and then Hollywood does what they do best, and they decide, oh, well, I guess nobody's interested in spoof movies anymore, and then just stop making them.
Yep.
When it was like, really, no, people do like comedic spoof movies, people just don't like fucking flaming piles of fucking garbage. Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, they're the people who killed the spoof genre.
Yes.
They're the hacks. As long
Send
as
your
they're
angry letters to them.
As long as they're as far away as possible from this new Scary Movie, I think we're good. Just keep those people away from it.
Yeah, but there was a brief attempt to bring it back on TV. There was a British series called Touch of Cloth that was like a TV police procedural kind of spoof that was really good. If you haven't seen it, check that out. Then they did another one kind of like it in the US called Angie Tribeca. America with Rashida Jones. And that was kind of like the last attempt to bring back the spoof. But now the Wayne brothers are returning to their own franchise that they created. They're getting back involved at Miramax and Paramount to make another scary movie. And you had mentioned, which I hadn't heard, that there's a Naked Gun remake being made.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane's behind it, apparently. I have no clue what the status of that is, but Liam Neeson is supposed to be starring as Frank Drebin. So it's supposed to be Liam Neeson.
Heard that. That's funny because it's like Leslie Nielsen who was in the original, you know? There's always a name confusion there.
It is kind of funny, yeah. And I remember because, like, one of those parody websites I see on Twitter, like, they did a joke. Jonathan Majors to play the O.J. Simpson role in Naked Gun reboot.
I'm happy to see spoofs come back. Hopefully they don't fuck it up.
Yeah, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they come back strong.
Yep.
And specifically with Scary Movie, since the last one, there's been, like, all kinds of, like, stuff happening in horror that, like, they have, like,
there's been, like, a whole renaissance of that. I mean, just A24 alone, you know?
Yeah, they have, like, a wealth of new content there to spoof, so.
Yeah, there's, like, two major companies that basically sprung up entirely around horror.
Yes.
I mean, A24 and Blumhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Are, like, two entire companies that are, like, really big companies that sprung up over basically just recently over modern horror film.
Yeah, although A24 does, like, more than horror.
Yeah, but they sprung up
They also
with
do,
horror.
like, drama. Yeah.
They got their hits in with horror, you know?
oh, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so that's it for our regular news stories, and now we're moving on to our trailers. We're gonna start things off with The Sticky, which features character actress Margot Martindale. Margot Martindale, who, let me guess, when you see her, the first thing you think of is
BoJack Horseman.
Oh.
No,
I thought it was gonna be Justified.
It's Justified. I'm messing with you.
The one thing I think of that comes to mind, and it's a recency bias thing, is Cocaine Bear.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't seen that.
She has a small but memorable role in Cocaine Bear, so it's like I mainly think of her from Justified and the Americans as well. But
yeah, season 2 of like Justified, but this has got Margot Martindale, so this is already off to like a strong start.
Jamie Lee Curtis at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, it looks fun. It's a heist caper.
Stealing maple syrup.
It looks like a lot of fun. It really does.
Speaking of a lot of fun, I saw the future Oscar record breaker for the most wins of any movie ever. The trailer we saw is for that movie, and that is The Invisible Raptor.
Oh yeah, definitely. Invisible Raptor. I mean, it's a brilliant concept. You take Jurassic Park, and then, you
how do you make it cheaper? You make all the dinosaurs invisible.
Exactly. If you make them invisible, you don't have to pay for the special effects.
It's just a hilarious idea, but it's funny because in the trailer they're playing into it. They know how stupid it is, and it's working.
Oh yeah, they're playing it. Yeah. It's more of a spoof than like a horror movie, really.
Yeah, it's like a concept spoof, which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So that also looks like real fun, real good time.
Mm-hmm. And then our next thing is, it's not really a trailer. It's like a video that Marvel put up on YouTube that features a bunch of footage from a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And it also shows their kind of entire lineup coming for the next year.
Disney Plus lineup, not film. This has nothing to do with like their theatrical. This is all stuff that's coming to Disney Plus.
Well, there's one movie in there. It's Disney Plus streaming date for it is on there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just because it's coming to Disney Plus in the near future.
So I'm going to go over these in order of release because they had the release dates for all of them, and then we can talk about each one for as much or as little as we want to. First, Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be coming to Disney Plus on November 12th.
Yep, it was inevitable.
It's a matter of time. We still need to talk about that.
We do. I need to watch it. I need to get Blu-ray when that comes out. It's
out now. Yeah, I think it's on the 25th, I think.
I don't have mine.
Well, you can watch it by November 12th.
Yes.
Next up is What If Season 3 coming December 22nd. Oh, okay. I don't care.
I don't care about like
What If kind of sucked.
I don't care about any of this except for obviously Deadpool, Wolverine, and like Daredevil. The rest of it it's mid.
I care about some of it. Some of it. So we'll go over What If I don't care about. What if the first season had one good episode, one great episode, I should rephrase, and the rest of it kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Season 2 was better than season 1 on an average, but didn't have a single episode that even came close to like episode 4 of the first season, the Doctor Strange episode that was so good. It just didn't do anything. So So it was like, yeah, I really don't care about more What If. They took a concept that would have allowed them to do literally anything with like a wealth of important and great characters, and they could have literally done anything, and they went the most like boring route possible with all the, they kind of...
Yeah, I mean, What If has been like the most disappointing of the Marvel projects so far, I think.
Yeah.
Because like, just because it has so much potential and they don't really seem to know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Next up is another one that I do care about, and that is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This is like a prequel to the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. So
they didn't really show anything from it like that much.
It's like him as Spider-Man before he met Tony Stark.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a prequel, although it's technically not in the mainline MCU, so this is an alternate universe take on it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's done so that they don't have to like worry about continuity, which is fine.
Mm-hmm. It's so they can bring in like bigger villains and stuff without having to go like, oh, wait a minute, you know?
Yeah, wait a minute, he doesn't know who that person is in the MCU. Like, yeah, exactly.
Next up is one that nobody cares about. Nobody at all. And that's Daredevil Born Again, which is coming in March.
Looks excellent. I wish we got like a full trailer for it. It's fine.
We got a full trailer before. It was good.
Yeah, but like an updated one. I mean, that's the one on here I'm looking forward to the most. I'm going to be honest, because that looks good. It looks like
that's the big one.
They're going back to Netflix Daredevil, which was peak. So, it looks great.
Then after that, we have Ironheart, featuring the character that was introduced in Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Clearly just was not necessary in that movie, and I don't really care about the show.
I think what's interesting is that the adversary in this movie is somebody that Rohrig Williams is working with to put together her suit. He's involved with this criminal, and that criminal is a comic book character who's involved with magic and stuff. So that part intrigues me because the magical side of the MCU might be one of my favorite aspects of the MCU, and there isn't really a lot going on there, We got Doctor Strange, and we got, Agatha All Along right now going on that.
Well, yeah, that's like the whole magical realm.
Yeah, they're not really doing too terribly much outside of that. They're not really touching on it as much as I'd like them to be. And I think they're going to be touching on some of that, but in a way where it's like mixing the magical stuff with the tech. Yeah. So I'm kind of a little interested in it because of that. Next up, we have Eyes of Wakanda. This is another animated series, but it's like an anthology, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's going to follow previous Black Panthers, I think.
No, I believe the logline I read, it's the Warriors.
Okay.
So it's the Warriors, who protect Wakanda.
It's the bald woman?
Yeah. And it's about different ones of them, through time, going outside Wakanda to track down.
Oh yeah, to recover vibranium artifacts and stuff.
Yeah. So it's like that. It could be interesting. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Next up is the one that I care the absolute least about, and that is Marvel Zombies. They already did this as a What If episode. One of the worst What If episodes.
Oh my god, yeah, it was. This is one of the ones I should be the most hyped for. I was yes, but that episode of What If was really bad, and this is the same people.
Yeah.
So I just have low expectations for it now, and it's such a shame. I wish I did. I hope it comes out excellent, but I don't have those expectations for it.
I should backtrack real quick. Ironheart's coming June 24th, Eyes of Wakanda on August 6th, and Marvel Zombies in October 2025. So for Halloween next year. And then the last one is one that I'm actually quite interested in.
This is one I super do not care about.
Really?
Really? Who cares about Wonder Man? He's freaking irrelevant. He's been irrelevant his entire existence. I don't think I've met a single person who was I'm a Wonder Man fan. I'm oh, okay.
I don't care about the character of Wonder Man at all. I don't even really know who it is, but it looks fun. The series looks fun. It's got a good cast, and it's Ben Kingsley reprising as Trevor, the fake Mandalorian.
Are we not sick of that character at this point?
No, okay. He was great in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, he was.
He was amazing in Shang-Chi. That was the last time we saw him, and he was great. And this is kind of more along those lines of his, the way he was in that movie versus playing the Mandalorian, I don't know. I think it looks fun. I think it looks like a lot of fun.
Alright, that's fair. It could be. Could be good. Could be a lot of fun. Can't write it off, but it's just there's nothing there to grab me, to be ooh, there's no ooh factor. It's just oh, it's a character I never followed, ever. And Ben Kingsley reprising his character from Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi, which it's a fun character, or I don't know, like there's nothing there that pulls me in, you know?
I think it looks good. I am excited for it. And I think, isn't that one of the ones that Justin Daniel Cretton is working on?
Oh, I have no clue.
He was the director of Shang-Chi.
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Justin Daniel Cretton. And he did Shang-Chi, which is probably the most underrated of Phase 4.
Yeah, Shang-Chi was solid, so like, I mean, it could be, again, I'm not gonna like say it's crap, I haven't seen it. I'm just saying like there's no draw. Here's a Wonder Man show, it's like, okay, fine.
So that's it for the Marvel video trailer collage thing that they put out. We got 2 surprise Nintendo reveals that just kind of dropped out of nowhere, pretty much back to back. One day and one the next day. First, we got a trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. This is the Wii U game, and they're bringing it over. They're giving it the kind of treatment they did the first game when they brought that over to Switch. This means that now all of the Xenoblade Chronicles games are all on Switch, or will all be on Switch.
Yes, so the entire Xenoblade franchise will be playable on one system, which is the dream.
Now we just need the Xenogears remake that was rumored with no credibility at all, and the Xenosaga remake collection that was rumored with a little bit more credibility, but still not much. And if those come, then we can rename the system the Xenoswitch.
Harada has shot down the idea of a Xenosaga collection like so many times. Every time it's been brought up.
Yeah.
So who cares? Well, I mean, he is an executive producer at Bandai Namco, so like, I mean, it's not gonna happen.
I said, who cares what he thinks? Not that he doesn't have the power. He's just a bean counter. He probably wants to make live service games.
Oh, he doesn't. Jesus.
The only opinions I care about when it comes to that franchise are Tetsuya Takahashi, who is the founder of Monosoft and the creator of the entire franchise and all the games.
Tetsuya Takahashi says we've moved on. We're making Xenoblade now. He personally told me to tell you to get over it.
Ironically, he was like misquoted in something where he said people thought he had said that there was no way that they could make Xenoblade Chronicles X for Switch or something, and it was just like a mistranslation, misquoting scenario thing or something.
Oh, well, what he meant was like, because I think like people took...
He just said it would be expensive. That's basically
people took it out of context like, oh, there's no way Switch could handle the game. It's like, what? Yeah. That doesn't make sense.
It's because he said it in Japanese and it was translated.
Yeah, and he said like monetarily, what he was saying was it was a large game because it's open world, so it's large scale, so it was expensive to produce in the first place. And so to do that, to remaster it would cost a lot of money and didn't sell particularly well the first time around. It was on like Wii U. So like his thing was like, oh well, like it would cost money, it's expensive, and I'd like it to happen, but financially, is it worth investing in?
Yeah, and that was mistranslated and mislocalized by a bunch of gamers using Google Translate and other junk and reading into the wording of something that wasn't even actually written in English in the first place.
That happens all the time. All the time now. Yeah. It's like, And it's like, obviously Switch can run a game on Wii U.
It's one of those things that would have been really true, not the technical side, but the financial side, except that when Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, it sold 2 million copies on Switch. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did well too, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition did really well.
That's exactly why you're seeing this happen, is because the series has had its renaissance on the Switch. Mm-hmm. I also think it's fortunate timing. It's a number of factors. First of all, it's the fact that the Switch itself has been so successful as like bringing these games up, because like these games are like being exposed to a larger audience than like on the Wii or even like the Wii U. Well, like on the Wii doesn't even count because like Nintendo like barely like put any effort into like they were it's like, oh, this is
a
not
GameStop exclusive in the US.
But like the Wii U, there's no audience there for anything. So like especially a game like Xenoblade Chronicles X. So you got that. You got the success of the Switch. And then we're also going through a period of JRPGs having a bit of a renaissance. We're seeing like Persona has become like one of the most popular franchises. Mm-hmm. And that was like a very niche like JRPG on the PlayStation 1. Like nobody was talking about Persona until like Persona 4, and then Persona 5 just like blew up. And so like there's this like...
Even like the Ys franchise, which was been around for like a long time, a really long time, but was kind of very super niche, and like almost none of the games would come out over here and stuff. And now it's like it's all coming coming out.
Yeah.
Like every entry, remakes of like old games are coming out. Also, Trail series, like getting like a new remake and stuff. It's like, yeah, there's a huge JRPG
so you got like a new audience for these games coming up, and they're discovering. And so it's fortunate that like they're putting out new games in the franchise on Switch. Like they put out 2 in like the first year of the Switch's life, and then 3 a couple of years after. So that's like really helping. They're really like riding this wave, and that's like raising awareness for the franchise. And so that's how they're getting like such big sales for it. And I think that has allowed for this to happen, for Xenoblade X to leave the Switch.
There's another factor too, which is just the fact that the Switch is at the end of its lifespan. They haven't yet announced the successor. Everyone's kind of waiting for the successor. There's been pretty credible rumors going around recently about Nintendo reaching out to third parties to make like ports and remasters for the Switch to basically cover the system. While most of Nintendo's development efforts are focused.
Nintendo's looking for some easy schedule fillers, and I think this works well because this is
it's a huge game. Yeah,
it's a huge game. This is a major franchise, and Nintendo doesn't have too many of those left on the Wii U that they can bring over. You know, it's this and like the Zelda like HD versions, or like the last big things.
The one Kirby game that would be really hard to port because it uses a stylus for most of the game. And
the Star Fox game everybody hates. It's also based
Yoshi's Woolly World, and then Nintendo Land, which is almost impossible.
Nintendo Land's impossible because that's fully designed around the Wii U.
I mean, you could if you made it like, if you required it to be like multiple switches in handheld mode or something, you know?
Yeah, that'd be weird. I don't know.
It would be hard. It's improbable, let's say.
That was purpose built for the Wii U. That's definitely not leaving the Wii U. I mean, there's not much, to be honest.
Yeah, there's only a small handful of games. A lot of them would be really tricky. Like I said, there's a Kirby game that requires very extensive use of a stylus, where like it would be really hard to port that over.
Yes, you would have to play that in like handheld mode.
Yeah, and even playing it in handheld mode, it's like there's a difference between the way a touch screen works with your finger and like a game designed to be used with a stylus, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. Like a stylus is more precise.
Yeah.
So it'd be really difficult, and I don't think it's like worth the hassle, you know,
Yeah. So there's a few things like that, but it's this is like the last like really big game that people like expected to come over, you know, and now it is.
People hoped would come over. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And Nintendo just dropped the announcement on a random Tuesday afternoon and said, by the way, this is happening. There you go.
Yeah. But it's cool. Like I'm happy it's happening. I don't think I'm gonna double dip because I did complete the game, and I don't think I'm gonna dive back into it. Like I dove back and I double dipped on 1. When 1 came out on Switch, the definitive edition, I double dipped on that. The one thing that makes me maybe want to double dip is that it's supposed to have more content. The original game ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, is there going to be a second game?" It seems like Nintendo has almost no interest in doing a second game, but I think they could cover that with like an epilogue chapter, the same way they did with.
I would say just get it. Just get digitally on your Switch.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna replay the whole game, but like the way most of the Xenoblade like DLC and the epilogue chapter that was added on to definitive edition, the way those were set up, you could just play them without actually even playing the original. Like you could buy the first Xenoblade, the definitive edition on Switch, and just jump right into, I think it's called Future Redeemed is the name of the epilogue chapter in that. You could just jump right into that. Like you don't have to actually play the game first. So it's done that way so that if you've already played the first game and you don't care about playing it again, you could just go and play the additional content. So I imagine it's going to be the same way with this. So that might be how I play this, where I'll just get it and then just play the additional content instead of like replaying the whole game. They did make some cosmetic changes. Graphically, it looks a little bit sharper. There's not a lot of change to the graphics. It looks a little bit sharper. But the one thing that's kind of weird about Monolith Soft is that before Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's like the company had no idea how to do faces. They just could not do faces to save their lives. Like the first Xenoblade game, the faces were like a big smeared stretch texture over like an angular thing. It just looks very odd.
Right.
And Xenoblade Chronicles X, they looked like the weirdest, like Precious Moment, like rubber dolls or something. they just looked very strange. Like it just did not work right. And they finally nailed faces with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and then, improved upon that further with 3. And then when they did definitive edition for the first game, they went back and fix the faces so that it was consistent. They haven't gone that far with the redesign on X, like they haven't like completely redone it, but they fixed a few things. Like the lifeless eyes actually look kind of more like anime-ish now and stuff. Like they've kind of cleaned up a few things to make it like not so jarringly bad as before. So there's a few changes. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good purchase. Although I'm saying that I'm not going to I might not double dip, or I probably won't replay the game and stuff. That's because I've already beaten the entire game. I put like 200 hours into it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I still recommend it.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear. I still recommend it. It's just, for me personally, I don't think I'm going to replay the entire game, you know. And then the last trailer we got, another one from Nintendo, another surprise. The next day after the Xenoblade Chronicles X, they released the kind of thing that I would have expected their whole playtest thing to have been about.
Yep.
When they announced their playtest, I know. I'm just saying, when they announced their playtest, this is the kind of thing I was expecting. Not this specifically, but something small like this, you know, is kind of what I had anticipated it to be. And that wasn't what the playtest is, but now we're getting like a music app. It's out. It's already out.
Nintendo Music.
Yeah.
That's the name of it. Yeah.
And it's already out. It's out right now. You can get it on your iPhone or Android. Just look it up.
It's a music streaming app.
Yeah.
That's specifically for Nintendo Music. And that's it. It's no frills.
It's got a limited amount of stuff on there right now, but they did say they're going to add as over time.
I just hope it's not like as drip feedy as like Nintendo Switch Online. Yeah. I don't want to be waiting like 3 years for like the F-Zero SNES soundtrack.
Yeah, we really need some Xenoblade music on there. We really need some F-Zero music
it's like, I hope it's more frequent, because right now, it's a bit bare bones.
I don't even think there's Metroid on there, is there?
There is, yeah. Metroid and Metroid Prime.
Okay, but there's no like...
So
Metroid
here's the full list. Here's the full list of games that are on there right now. So it's Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Dr. Mario, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby Star Allies, Metroid, Metroid Prime, Fire Emblem, GBA, Yoshi's Island, Animal Crossing, Star Fox 64, Pikmin 4, Splatoon 3, and Nintendogs.
So what's funny is that most of those games are like, it's the soundtracks from games that are on the Switch.
Yeah.
Most of them. There's a few exceptions, Nintendogs being one. Another one is like Dr. Mario, which only has games on like, the Nintendo Switch Online and emulation. Yeah. That's the only way you can play Dr. Mario on the Switch.
Wait, the Switch is like the only Nintendo console, not counting, I guess, Virtual Boy, that does not have its own bespoke version of Dr. Mario, which is also weird.
Which is frustrating. I really hope that we get that by the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, same.
I really like Dr. Mario, but it's hard to play the old ones, just like it's hard to play old versions of Tetris because there's certain changes that have been made in like just puzzle games in general that just weren't in those old ones. Like,
the one thing, like,
the drop, you know?
Also that wasn't in this list I looked up of launch games that is in there also is Tomodachi Collection and the Wii Channels music. So you got the Wii Shop music in here.
Oh, it is in there. I didn't see it in there, huh?
Yes. So you have the music from the Wii Shop channel, the Me channel, Forecast Photo, like all the Wii channels.
Those were bops.
Yeah, those were bops. Yeah, they were bops. Legitimately.
Yeah, I want them to put more Metroid stuff on there. I really want them to put like Metroid Dread in there. I really, really, really want them to put some Xenoblade music on there.
It's interesting, under NES they have two
Fire Emblem.
They have two entries for Metroid. They have Metroid and then Metroid Famicom Disk System. I think that's because like the sound, the music on Famicom Disk System was better than like on the NES.
Yeah.
That is interesting that they even bothered to do that.
Yeah, they should do more with that though. Metroid has great music.
They should. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of potential. There's not a lot of stuff in here. Like right now, like I have it sorted. You can sort by platform. Mm-hmm. So you have like all the Nintendo Switch games, which right now Nintendo Switch has the most per platform. Then you have like Wii, DS, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, SNES, Game Boy, and NES. SNES only has two games right now, and that's criminal.
Yeah.
It's Mario Yoshi's Island and Donkey Kong Country.
I'm kind of surprised about Donkey Kong Country because that's probably a music rights issue, even though they published the game.
Is it? No, there's no music
I don't know. I think music, oftentimes there are publishing rights issues. Even if
Nintendo owns like all the music to Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, but they don't own the studio that made it.
Right,
and
but
that
own
causes
the tracks.
issues sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it was so hard to get like GoldenEye, even though Nintendo owned Rare at the time, you know?
GoldenEye was also Nintendo's own James Bond.
Yeah, but I mean, they had to work with Microsoft to make that happen.
Right, yeah.
Microsoft doesn't own James Bond either. Actually, do they now? Because then is it MGM? Maybe they do own James Bond.
Oh, no, Amazon bought MGM.
Oh, that's
MGM.
right.
Yeah, Amazon did. No, it's the thing with GoldenEye is like rights were split three ways because obviously Rare developed the game and they were owned by like Microsoft, and then like MGM owns James Bond. I think Nintendo owned like all the code to GoldenEye, so it really can't have been ported anywhere without like all three parties consenting. It was a really like weird situation.
Yeah, like I imagine that there's similar things going on with Donkey Kong because of that too, because of the music rights are often tricky with video games. A lot of times when a video game doesn't get like brought over to another system or brought over in like whatever emulation service they have, a lot of that is often because of music.
Yeah,
it's one of
music
those
rights
that causes it.
Yeah, especially like this. Like under Game Boy you have Kirby's Dream Land and Dr. Mario. You probably don't have Tetris because Nintendo, like, they probably own the rights to like the tracks they use for Game Boy Tetris, but they don't own Tetris.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so
there's so many tricky rights in early gaming.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just excited that Nintendo is making their music available legally. I think people have
because they've been doing
that.
all that takedowns on YouTube that people were hating them for, and now they're kind of like providing an actual solution to some of that.
Yeah, they're providing a solution. You have to have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to use this app, by the way. It's so like it's not a free app. It's free if you have that subscription.
Yeah.
So you do need to. So it is like, this is Nintendo Spotify, essentially. This is a paid subscription music app that's just solely Nintendo tunes.
Spotify, but is the easier way to make the analogy, but another way that's probably closer would be like Amazon Prime, in the sense that if you subscribe to Prime for free shipping, you also have access to like a music library.
Oh yeah.
Streaming, and you also have access to
Nintendo
Prime Video, and you also have access to, it's kind of that kind of situation.
I should correct myself. You need to have an expansion pack.
Okay,
subscription.
You do?
Yeah, so it's not the basic subscription.
Okay.
It's the same thing with like the Nintendo Switch Online game that's currently being tested. You need an expansion pack subscription for that. So this is part of a push by Nintendo. They're looking to make the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack subscription more substantial for people, like
more valuable,
features. Yeah, more valuable. This is a part of it. The game that they're testing currently is a part of it, because I mean,
they do all those free DLCs for like Splatoon and Mario Kart and other stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately they've only done like 3 so far. Animal Crossing, Splatoon, and Mario Kart. That doesn't happen too frequently, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but they did do that.
Well,
I mean, I'm going to admit
Splatoon 3, I think so.
I'm going to admit, when they launched expansion pack, originally it was like, oh, you get access to Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy Advance games for $50 a month. You know, when like the original subscription was like, $50 a year, when the original subscription was like $20, $25 a year. And I just thought that was insane. And I was like, okay, cool, you're adding new platforms, but holy crap, that's a huge jump in price.
Especially considering how garbage the N64 lineup is.
You know what's funny about the Nintendo 64 lineup? I think Nintendo 64 per game has more racing games on it than any other platform in regards to like
in ratio
to its library. It's like a small library, but like every other game on the N64 is a racing game. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think they were just easy to make on that system. That system was difficult to make games for, and I think that was like really easy, that style of game.
Right, yeah. But yeah, like I remember at the time I was like, that's expensive, and then I subscribed, but like I was like, yeah, that's ridiculous. The pricing was ridiculous. I think adding new features like this brings more value to it. It makes it more justified, because now you can say, okay, yes, I get N64 GBA games, I get Sega Genesis, but I also get music streaming on my iPhone. I get to play this online game that details cannot be divulged publicly. You get to do that, and so they're trying things, and like I gotta really like commend it on what they're doing with this.
I want to go over some of that before we exit this and then go to our full spoiler segment. I wanted to go over there's a few kind of interesting features that are in this service. So there's kind of 3 that I'm noting. One is it's very simple, but it's cool that they did it. And that's that there's like a bunch of playlists that are like pre-organized in there. You can make your own playlist too, but it's cool that they made a bunch of playlists with different like types. So it's not just like, oh, here's a playlist of N64 games, and oh, here's a playlist of SNES games, and oh, here's a playlist of Mario soundtracks. But they did like a boss battle playlist, for example. That's really cool that they're doing stuff like that, you know, like so that you can really kind of trigger down into your mood of what you want to listen to.
It's awesome.
So that's cool. That's like the most basic thing. Another thing they did that's pretty cool is that there's like a spoiler aversion mode that you can enable that I'm not sure if it just blocks certain tracks entirely. I haven't used it really. I've looked at the app a little bit, but I haven't really played anything on it. But there's a check you can do to avoid spoilers, which is kind of cool. Especially if they bring stuff for new games, that's going to become more relevant, you know?
Like we gotta have to check that for Nintendo.
They put out like let's say they put out like a new 3D Mario on the Switch successor. And let's say the music track for the end of the game is called like Bowser Dies or something like that, you know? If you were just to listen to it on YouTube, you would get that and have the spoiler. Whereas like here, that would be blocked. Either the whole track would be blocked or the title would be blocked to avoid the spoilers. And imagery and stuff is also like avoid spoilers that it goes with the track. So that's a cool, interesting feature that kind of like you can only think of. I think Nintendo's like the only company that would do something like that. So that's kind of cool. Another thing that I saw that was kind of cool that I haven't played with it, so I don't know exactly how it works. But the thing about a lot of video game music is it's not just like a track of music. It's like designed to be looped. And when you'd actually get like a video game soundtrack and listen to it, usually it would be something like it would just play the track like twice or something. Like it would just set it. Well, here you can actually like listen to a song and like determine the length of how long you want to listen to it for. So you could like put on like the Wii Shop music and just set it to play for like an hour on loop, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll seamlessly just keep looping because it's seamless because it's like video game music.
Yeah.
You know? Or you could just have it play for like a minute, you know? Just play its single run of its duration up to the point at which it would loop and then go to the next track or something. So you could play with that, which is kind of cool. That's like something you can only do with video games.
Yeah, man, Nintendo's had a weird October, man. It's been weird announcements. They announced an alarm clock, then like a mysterious game for Nintendo Switch Online, then Xenoblade Chronicles X, which never thought was that, and now in a music app. Like everything but the expected Switch 2, right?
Yeah.
Like Nintendo's going to announce Switch 2 in October, announces alarm clock and music streaming app. Oh, okay.
Very strange, but very Nintendo.
Yes, very
strange.
Right, yeah, exactly.
To buck expectations is a very Nintendo thing to do. But that is it for our news segment. Let's move on to full spoilers, our final segment of the podcast. And as usual, we're going to be talking about Agatha All Along and the Penguin. This week we are talking about Agatha All Along Episode 7, Death's Hand in Mine, and the Penguin Episode 6, Gold Summit. So last week when we were talking about how I was disappointed with the Penguin episode, and I said that it's not that the episode was bad, it's just that it's following up such a good, strong episode, and then it's like, it just has to step down. And when I said that, I said, I'm kind of actually worried about the next episode of Agatha All Along, because last week's episode of Agatha All Along was like the best episode of the season at that point. And I said similarly, I'm worried that like the next episode of Agatha All Along like has nowhere to go but down, because they've already given us this huge reveal that, you know, they showed how that works. They kind of gave us all like they showed us how the clock ticks. They brought us through that whole process, showed us how all that stuff is going on. And it's like, okay, now we're going to go back into the regular format of the show, and it's going to feel like a downer, like we're stepping down from like a really good high of an episode into something that's like a little bit weaker. And it's not that it's bad, but a little bit weaker. That didn't end up happening, because now episode 7 of Agatha All Along, at least in my opinion, might actually be better than episode 6 of Agatha All Along. I'm interested. What do you think?
I'm going to say 6 is a stronger episode. This is a strong episode. It's fine. This is a good episode. Don't get me wrong. I just think like this is probably still for me behind the pilot and behind episode 6. And just because the biggest issue I have with it is like it zeroes in on a character and like that character's story and journey, because they're killing that character off, which is like now has like kind of become a peeve with me. It's like we don't really start paying super attention to a character until we're ready to kill them off. And It's well done, don't get me wrong, it's like very well done, and it's a natural part of her journey. Death flags were there the entire time, but it's a great send-off for the character. But it's also like, we didn't really spend too much time investigating her backstory the entire series, and then like we get to that point, and it's, oh yeah, because she's dying at the end of the episode.
They did pull a cool trick though, which is that character has had these moments throughout the season where she says something completely out of context. It doesn't seem to match what's going on. And this gave context to all of that. In like a really interesting way.
Yeah, Lilia.
Yeah. They gave context to all these kind of weird moments by showing that her life is kind of out of order. And I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love...
Well, they played it off like...
You've watched Watchmen, but did you read the comic for Watchmen?
Of course I did.
Okay, so you know like the Dr. Manhattan chapter, where it's like all his life out of order and stuff.
Yeah, his life is out of order. Yeah, well, like...
Or like the Constant from Lost, you know?
They pulled a trick with Lilia where you were supposed to believe she was suffering from like onset dementia the entire time. I'm surprised that's not actually what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
like,
a really cool. It's a really cool trick. You can go back and watch the show again and be like, oh, okay, yeah, like the pieces fit better now. You understand them now. Like it's just, I love stuff like that. I love stuff that fucks with time. Like I said, I love that chapter in Watchmen, the Dr. Manhattan chapter where you see kind of his perspective on time. I loved The Constant, the best episode of Lost, my favorite show ever, and the best episode of that what I consider probably still the best episode of television ever is The Constant. And I love that kind of stuff. So getting that in this was like just a real treat. I get what you're saying about you only really focus on a character right before you kill him kind of thing. That's something that's kind of been like a trope in television long before Marvel got involved in television.
Oh, I know. That's why I say, like, it's kind of a tired trope.
Yeah.
It's a tired trope. I think at this point, like, writers should avoid.
Yeah, but I think the signs were there, so it's not like a waste.
I mean, it's well done. No, I didn't say like this was poorly done. I said this is very well done. It makes sense. It fits. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like, oh, they did. If she got like a little more development earlier in the season, like it would be better.
Yeah, I could see that definitely. But that's a problem with now in seasons instead of 22 episodes, so like 8, 9, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
That's like a downfall of that. The upside of that is that we have more quality control per episode. The downside is that you can't inhabit the space of the characters. Like you're not going to have those kind of things like with Lost, where like you'd have a huge cast of characters.
Especially doing like
every season, you'd have like 2 episodes focusing on one character, you know?
It's especially difficult because like this is like a 9-episode miniseries and it's an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works that well because you don't really have time with an ensemble cast. You don't really have time to like flesh out everybody, give everybody like their own arcs, you know, and I think that is like a major drawback or a major weakness of the show. If this was like a longer show, we got time to give every member of the Coven an arc, a character arc, explore their backstories, you know, like they do on Lost. Lost, because it is an ensemble cast, I think it'd be that much stronger for it. Instead, it feels like we're kind of like racing towards the conclusion of the plot line.
Yeah. There is one area I'll push back on that though, which is that they've done a good job of, and this is something like I think the Magicians did a good job of too, of like a character's dead, but that character still inhabits space in the show, even after they're dead.
Yeah.
So, for example, Alice still inhabits some space. It's been, 2 episodes since Alice's character died, and she still, like, feels like a part of the show.
Right. Oh,
I remember talking about that when we were going through the, like, last season of The Magicians, when Quentin had died, and how he still felt like he was in the show, even though he wasn't.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, good writers will do that. Good writers will do that. And I think, like, the showrunner here, Jack Sheffer, is fantastically talented, and you can tell with this. Like, because this is, I did get my grievances, but this is still a solid show.
Well, here's the thing. This is the same showrunner that did WandaVision.
Yeah.
I thought WandaVision, like, we disagreed on that. You'd say Loki, I'd say WandaVision was the best.
I say
shows.
Loki because, like, WandaVision does get pretty uneven at the end.
Much better highs, though.
Yeah.
In WandaVision. And it had some issues at the end.
Yeah.
But it was like the highs were so good.
It gets kind of sloppy at the end of it. But it's like, okay.
Yeah. Now seeing Agatha All Along, it's made me, like, I am now paying attention to this woman, this showrunner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I want to see what she's doing next. And as much as I love Marvel, I'd love her to do something outside outside of Marvel. I
Right.
want to
Oh,
see
absolutely.
what she would do completely on her own creativity. You know what I mean? Like, I really want to see what she's going to do when she just does something on her own, where she creates something on her own and does that entirely. I'm very intrigued about that. Not just after WandaVision, but now with Agatha All Along and how good that is too. But yeah, so we had this timey-wimey episode. We had a bunch of cool stuff happening in it. We went back to the themes of the trials with the different outfits and stuff, but we did the coolest one this week where they all were like famous depictions of witches.
Yeah.
Which was really cool with like, you know, Teen being, or we should say Billy now being Maleficent.
Yeah.
And Agatha being the Wicked Witch of the West. There's just all these
mandatory Disney shout-outs.
Yeah.
Did you know we're owned by Disney?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
It's just very cool though. Like, I think it was very well done. I think the costumes kicked it in this episode more than they did in any of the other ones. So really worked here. I loved all the stuff with the tarot readings. It was like the scenes were tense. The various scenes involving it were tense. I liked the final confrontation, even though it's kind of truncated and it isn't really like a huge epic showdown or really all that cool. I do kind of like the way it ended the stuff with the Salem 7, if they are indeed gone now, which I think they are.
Yeah, I think so.
I kind of think that we didn't really need them to be like actual primary antagonists. They were just kind of like a force of nature. We never met them as people. And so I think it's kind of fitting for them to end that way too.
They were just a plot device. Let's just be honest. They were a reason to force Agatha onto the road. That was it.
That's what I mean though. It's like, I think they did good with that. You know, like I think if they had tried to like force character onto them, it wouldn't have worked.
Right, yeah.
So
I mean, the show's not built for that.
Yeah. So I like that they didn't. I like that they just treated them like a force of nature. Like, this is just something. This is like a tornado that you're trying to like hide in your attic from, you know, or not in your basement from. This is just something that's coming. There's no personality. There's nothing. It's creepy. It's weird. It's got some cool moments to it. It's got a cool design, but that's it. It's not like an actual character. You know, it's not a group of actual characters. Like, you're not like, oh, that's Rose and that's, you know, Samantha and that's, you know, like none of that matters. It's just the Salem 7 is just kind of a force of nature. And like you said, yeah, it is a plot device, but I think it works in that way. And I'm glad that like we've sorted that and that we're not going to have that be the end of the series, because I think that they're not necessary for where the show's going.
No, yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on then to the Penguin, episode 6, Gold Summit. We ended the last episode with them starting their new base of operations. This episode, it kind of takes a little bit of a time jump, a very short time jump, where you can kind of see like the operations kind of off the ground now.
They're in full swing. Yes.
Yeah, but we got a lot more time with Oz's mom, Frances, and more into like kind of her dealing with dementia and all the stuff that goes with that. They played more into like, you know, showing how that affects Oz and how this is like the one kind of tie to humanity that Oz really has is his mom. It's the one thing he like genuinely cares about. And we got to like kind of play on that and show kind of the ups and downs of that and how much she means to him, but also like how hard it is when she's in a bathtub that she can't get out of and freezing in there and he has to like pour out, and these kind of hard moments that he has, and actually being like a compassionate son add a lot more like character depth to him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're focusing on this as Sophia
building a weird father-daughter relationship with her former enemy.
Yeah,
it's just like the strangest father-daughter relationship we've seen in a while.
He's also looking for ways to strike back at Oz, obviously. And then they settle on like, oh, they're going to try and go after people Oz cares about. They're coming up short in that department.
Yeah, until the end.
Yeah, until the end. Yeah.
The ending of the episode has a big tense kind of scene where we see something, but you know the characters don't, and that's we see
Sophia's at the apartment where Oz is, you know, has Victor like hiding his mother.
Yeah, the two people he cares about, you know, his mom and Victor.
Yeah,
the two people he cares about are just they're happy and just kind of enjoying the moment. It's just the two of them, and it's like a brief reprieve from all the drama that they're going through. It's kind of like I mentioned last week that everything seemed to be going bad for Oz.
Yeah.
And this episode, it's like everything is going great for Oz. And then the episode ends with like, oh, it's Chekhov's Sophia, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly. Everything's going great, so that means, next comes a fall. A great fall.
Yeah.
I think we know where this is going and the ramification. And so basically now you're just waiting for, like, the ramifications, right?
Yeah,
and
I like that it just ended with them still in their happy moment, not realizing the shit they were in. You know, I like that the episode ended there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It didn't end with, like, a gunshot or anything. Yeah, it ended there with the implication of, what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be interesting to see play out next week, this Sunday when it airs, actually. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, it shows, Oz is making moves. He's getting all the crime lords together. He's trying to unite them.
That was a cool scene where he brought them all together
and
using the opening of the beer can as like the symbolic, like, yay votes.
Right, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a really cool scene. I really like the way that came together.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene. Oh, for sure.
I like how Oz, who always talks himself out of situations, realized that the only way he could talk himself into a better predicament with that where he was to just straight up be honest.
Right, yeah. It's kind of ironic. Like, it's one situation where, like, honesty is better than bullshit.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, all that shit is true, but so fucking what?
Yeah, and he wins that support, and then there's a whole subplot about they're not diverting, like, electricity to Crown Point, so he's constantly dealing with that, and then he gets, like, the council member to, like, prioritize to get the power turned back on.
Yeah, oh god, just imagine. Yeah. That was painful to watch.
That was painful to watch, yeah.
With the
tweezers in the nose.
Yeah, the pliers or whatever, yeah. In the
pliers, yeah. That was brutal. Victor dealing with the drug dealer that he knew.
Yeah.
Prior Oz, so Squid. That guy, like, really, like, trying to pressure Victor into, like, getting him involved in Oz's business, and Victor killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's, like, really...
Trying initially, like, literally it's not even, like, so much to try to get rid of him, but to try to basically save his life.
Yeah.
To be like, I don't want to kill you, here, take this bribe money.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy, like, forces it on him, and then he has to kill him.
Yeah, he has to kill him.
Which led to a great scene with him and Oz, where Oz showed compassion and hugged him, and God, that line from Oz, like, it gets easier.
It gets easier, yeah. Yeah, it's haunting. Because, like, that's the kind of, like, person he is. Like, there's no remorse with Oz.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry, you'll kill a lot more people, and the next one won't hurt as much.
Yeah. And I think, like, it's a lack of awareness. Oz doesn't realize he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand that being able to kill people and not feel anything isn't normal.
Well, in the last episode we had when he burned the mother and son, and he was just, like, watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of got that aspect of his character, and then that plays into that dialogue choice in this episode of making that particularly haunting,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When he says, like, oh, yeah, the Maronis are ashes.
Yeah. Man, Penguin continued to be good.
Yeah, Penguin is an awesome show.
Too terribly much to say about the episode, It was
a nice,
good.
solid episode. Plot move forward. We're moving into the conclusion, I think it's gonna get really messy, and it's gonna be like, this is Penguin's, this is gonna be his, like, true villain origin story.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. We're moving in that direction. We got 2 more episodes left of The Penguin. We've got 2 more episodes left of Agatha All Along. We've mentioned this before, but the last 2 episodes of Agatha All Along are coming on the same day. Today, as we're recording this, those episodes should be out now.
So like, Disney dropped the first 3 on the premiere. They're dropping the last 2. I thought it was 3.
We didn't talk about it until like 3 of them.
That's right. Never mind. That's why I'm confused. Yeah, they dropped 2 to start, and they're dropping 2 to end.
Yeah.
I guess Disney really wanted this show to end by Halloween.
That makes sense. I mean, you're playing into spooky season, Ending the day before Halloween's pretty nice.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We are not going to be talking about The Penguin next week. We're going to be talking about the last 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. What we figured out was we could either talk about the last 2 episodes of Agatha All Along and the second to last episode of The Penguin, and then the next week talk about the last episode of The Penguin. But it just made more sense to us to do it where we would talk about the last 2 episodes of Agatha All Along next week, and then the last 2 episodes of The Penguin the next week. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to treat each one as its own event and give it its own focus and its own attention. I think that's the right way to cover it for us. So,
oh yeah, I agree.
That's what we're going to be doing next week. The conclusion of Agatha All Along. The week after that, the conclusion of The Penguin. So look forward to both of those. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford 1. Will is at Voxel Hero. Those same handles work on Blue Sky if you use that app instead of Twitter, so you can check that out as well. You can go to our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the last paragraph and you'll find all the relevant links to all of our social accounts. I haven't put in our Blue Sky stuff there. I need to start doing that, including that in there. But our RSS feed, our SoundCloud page, all that stuff's there as well, so check that out. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel, as well as additional content like our last podcast, The Weekly Set, which ran for 300 episodes, and we covered a bunch of stuff that's relevant to the same kind of stuff. If you like this podcast, you probably like that one too. So if you want to go back and listen to us talk about like Hannibal or Game of Thrones when it was on and stuff, like that's all on our Weekly Set podcast, so you can check that out there. But until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Nice.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.